Good morning to you all. Please take off
Tisztelt
your
Hölgyeim és Uraim!
earphones.
Üdvözlöm Önöket!
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you at our press conference. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Üdvözlöm
Welcome to our
Samuel
press
Pisar
conference.
urat,
I would like to extend a very
UNESCO
special
Holocaust
welcome
kutatásért
to
felelős
Samuel Pisar, who is a
közleménytisztelt
special envoy of
nagykövetét,
the Holocaust
aki ma
and
délelőtt
honorary
megbeszélési
ambassador
folytatott Lázár János
dedicated
miniszterelnök
to education,
államtitkárral.
who had a meeting this morning
Magyarország
with
kormánya, ahogy is
Lázár
tudják,
János, Minister of State.
2014-es évekre
As
a
you
magyar
probably all
zsidó
know,
tömeges deportálásának 70.
2014
évfordulóját
is going
Holocaust
to be the
emléknapján
70th
nyilvánították.
anniversary of the
Lázár
mass
János államtitkár
deportation of the
először
Jews, and this is going
kormányában
to be a
bátorított az
memorial year.
emlékszerző
It is
koordinálásáért
János
felelős magyar
Lázár,
Holocaust
who is the
emléknapot.
head of the Hungarian
Samuel
Holocaust
Pisar
Memorial
nagykövet úr
Committee.
Lengyelországban
Ambassador
született.
Samuel Pisar was
Gyermekként
born in
deportálták
Poland.
Majdanek-Majdanek és
He was as a
Auschwitz-i
child
Dachau
deported to
haláltáboraiban.
Majdanek and later to Auschwitz and
1945-ben ő volt az
Dachau.
egyik
In
legfiatalabb
1945, he was one
és
of
az
the
egyetlen,
youngest
aki életben maradt a
Holocaust survivors, and he
családjából
was the
és
only one
kortársai
who
közül.
remained alive
Háború
from his
után
family
Ausztráliában
and
járt
his
tanítósorait fogadott
schoolmates.
Harvardban,
Later, he lived in
Sorbonne
Australia and
egyetemeken.
then had a doctor's degree at Harvard and
1974-ben Nobel
Sorbonne.
békedíjra
In
jutott. Egyike a
1974,
János
he
János
was appointed to be a Nobel
alapítóinak.
Prize laureate.
Dolgozott a
He's one of the
Párizsi
founders of Yad
Memoir de la
Vashem.
Shoah
He
központ
worked as a
igazgatójaként,
director
és
of
a
Paris
washingtoni
Memoir
székhelyű
de la
Brookings
Shoah
intézet
and the Brookings
tudománykutatója.
Institute's special
2011 óta az
commissioner
UNESCO
in
tiszteletbeli
Washington.
nagyköveteként
Since
és a holokauszt
2011, he is a special
kutatásért felelős
ambassador to
tudományközösség
UNESCO and he's
számára
a special
alkalmat
envoy to
felszólalt az
Holocaust
amerikai
education. So
képviselőházban,
he
az
was
Európai Parlamentben, a Bundestagban,
standing up
a
in
francia
the European
nemzetgyűlésben,
Parliament in
valamint
Washington and,
számos
and
globális
in
Nálunk
UNESCO
február
and
30-án
in the
a
Bundestag as
holokauszt
well. So
emlékhivatás az UNESCO
this
közötti
morning the state
együttműködés
secretary is going to talk about the
lehetőségéről.
possibilities of the Holocaust
Felkérem
Memorial
Lázár
Committee
János
and
urat,
UNESCO,
hogy számoljon be
and I'm
részletekről.
asking now the Minister of State to
Megköszönöm
say
a
what
lehetőséget,
the
én
morning
tisztelt
discussions were all
nagykövet úr,
about. Thank you so
kedves
much, State
nagykövet
Secretary,
kollégáim,
Excellency Ambassador, and
kedves Judith
Excellency
asszony,
Pisar,
aki
Excellency Katalin
egyetemi
Bogyai,
lányok
who is
tiszteltét,
actually, and dear Judith, who is a girl from Pest, who is not only the dear wife of Mr. Pisar, but she's actually a lady from Budapest. And I am very grateful for taking the opportunity to report to the press that in 2014 UNESCO and the Hungarian government how the 2014 Memorial Year is going to be running. And before telling that, I would like to tell you that Mr. Samuel Pisar is actually a great friend of Hungarians. We honor this friendship very much. And the Prime Minister and also the members of the government had many times the opportunity to listen to his impressions and views in the past year. So Mr. Pisar arrived to Budapest as a friend of Sholti and as an admirer of Sholti. He was a friend actually, so he came here to remember. And this friendship resulted in a cooperation, but that this cooperation should not only be about the past, about the Holocaust commemoration. I would like to invite you to the Opera House, where today you will have the chance to get familiar with a special facet of Mr. Pisar, because together with his friend Bernstein, he wrote the libretto of the Kaddish. So he himself wrote the Kaddish, and tonight the Hungarian Opera can be the host of this historical act and historical presentation of this piece of art, where I do hope to meet you. So his love for Hungary, so his love for and friendship with Sholti, and his commitment for public life is something that brought Mr. Pisar here. You probably know very well that the Hungarian government started a year ago the Holocaust 2014 Memorial Committee, and this Memorial Committee has a duty to manage all the Memorial Year and all the events and activities that will take place next year, and that is going to be the anniversary of our Jewish compatriots, and the Hungarian government is not only bowing its head to remember those people, those Hungarian Jewish compatriots of ours who were demonstrated to gas chambers and extermination camps, but we would like to organize such a memorial year which is not only about painful memories, about bowing our heads to respect and honor, but also for the next generations to come. And this is why we decided that the Józsefváros railway station is going to be converted into an educational center where for the today's Budapestian youngsters and young students we would like to permanently show the events of the of those years, and I think this is the most important thing, to have an educational center which has a symbolic value at the Józsefváros railway station. Another thing is that in 2014 in the Hungarian educational system, and from September 2014 September in the schools and other educational institutions, every youngster will receive a lot of information about the years of the Shoah with all the details. They should learn from that. They should be able to relate it to their future, so that they should formulate the Hungarian present and future. It is a great honor that UNESCO intends to participate in the memorial activities in 2014. It is an even bigger honor that in the person of Samuel Pisar, who is a survivor, so as a survivor he will be able to inform you about this. Thank you so much, and I'm asking His Excellency Samuel Pisar to speak. Thank you. The floor is yours, Mr. Pisar.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my wife and I are delighted, even though we have been to Hungary many, many times in the past, even during the Cold War, to find ourselves in a free and vigorous Hungary, recovered from the years of Nazi and communist yoke, and to find the city of Budapest as vibrant as we have ever known it, and even much more so. We are here for a variety of reasons. One of them was the inauguration of the fantastic, magnificent Scholti Hall at the Liszt Academy a few days ago. We were the guests of the government on that occasion. It so happens that my wife, Judith, maybe it has already been said, who is of Hungarian ancestry, and myself have known Sir Georg Scholti in New York, in Paris, in London, and it was a wonderful, what is the word, prelude to all the activities that we're going to speak about here, a great prelude to all of that when that hall was inaugurated, and the symbolism and significance of choosing that Jewish personality as one of the great cultural representatives of Hungarian civilization. The other reason I am here is for the publication of my book called Of Blood and Hope, a personal book about my experience during the Holocaust, and since then, And I want you to know that in the preface to the book, I have dedicated it to the younger generation of Hungarians in the hope, in the conviction that they will remain devoted to democracy, to tolerance, and to understanding nationally and internationally. I felt that it is to them that I owed the book, and all the more so because when I was 14, 15, and 16 years old, I was a direct witness in 1944 to the destruction of more than 400,000 Hungarian men, women, and children. I saw it all with my own eyes at the time, and I could never get it out of my mind because, of course, the Holocaust was cruel with Jewish people from other countries also, but the slaughter was never as great and as intense as what I saw that spring and summer of 1944, when every day more than 10,000 innocents were being exterminated. The other reason I am here is to perform my Libretto Kaddish. It is a kind of imaginary dialogue with God, which I have written at the request of the famous American composer Leonard Bernstein for his monumental symphony number 3, and I will perform that at the State Opera with your great orchestra tonight and tomorrow night. And that also is another way of expressing the message that I am carrying within me. Most of all, I am here to discuss with His Excellency and other people in the government the role of Hungary in the commemoration of the Holocaust in the year 2014. This development is of some historic proportion because Hungary was awarded the patronage of UNESCO to preside, so to speak, of these commemorations, not only at the national level, but on the international level as well. Let me tell you the scope of all of this. In 2005, the United Nations passed a resolution and voted that the Holocaust and other things related to it should be commemorated in various ways. And in 2007, it, after declaring a universal world Holocaust Day, which is commemorated on the 27th of January every year. UNESCO was given the crucial function of popularizing this and giving it a universal scope. And UNESCO was in particular to do this within the mandate of education. UNESCO, as you all know, means education, science, and culture, but the most important mission is education. And the Director General of UNESCO, Madame Irina Bukova, in close cooperation with Her Excellency, whom we all call Katalin, have worked out the fundamentals of all the activities and all the enterprises that will take place under your leadership, sir, in Hungary, at UNESCO on the 27th of January, and thereafter, by virtue of many, many different activities that will take place in this country and other countries and will go on throughout the year 2014. A very important investment on the part of your state and your government, and it will take all kinds of forms, concerts, films, books, conventions, conferences in Paris, particularly in April, to which Madame Bokova will come, has committed to come, and myself and others. And I am, in my capacity as ambassador and special envoy of UNESCO for all activities related to this, I am particularly happy and impressed that Hungary is going to play such an important role in these undertakings.
Köszönöm szépen nagykövet úrnak. Ha megengedik, akkor a magyar kormány nevében.
Well, thank you so much for His Excellency Pisar, and if you allow me, I would like to make a statement that we consider that the patronage of UNESCO is considered to be a very, very great honor. I think it is great that Europe's and the world's attention through UNESCO in 2013 is focused on the activities of the Memorial Year in Hungary, and this UNESCO patronage gives us an opportunity not only for Hungary but also in Europe and everywhere else. We should be able to bow our heads and remember all our compatriots who died there in the death camps. And the first event will be the conference in January in Paris, which is going to be organized and dedicated to the memory of the first victims. And of course there will be great many other events that are going to be organized that are going to call the attention of not only the Hungarians but also the international public there. And as a continuation of the book Mr. Samuel Pisar, I would like to highly recommend the book of Mr. Pisar, and If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now. So please talk into the microphone. Thank you for the floor. László Komárom is my name. I come from Hír TV. I got 3 questions to this Minister of State, if you allow, in 2 topics that differ a little bit from this one. My first is that you mentioned that in Józsefváros there will be an education center. Can you tell us some details about that as to how this Józsefváros railway station transformation project is progressing? When do you expect that it's going to be implemented? And the second, too, I'm asking you as a vice president of Fidesz, how do you what is your view about the video shootings of the elections at the town Baja? And what is your view about the presentation of the left parties? And also, a third thing, that there are about 2,500 enterprises that could not submit their profit and loss account, and what can they expect from the National Development Agency, and can they have anything to expect? Well, I'm very, very sorry for Excellency that there are so many other questions are popping up from the Hungarian press, but I try to be addressing these, but unfortunately Hungarian internal policy is very, very vivid as well, and sometimes I have to answer as well. Well, the government decided that at the Józsefváros railway station, which is owned by the Hungarian National Railways, and together with them we will establish a memorial center for which we allocate 20 million euros. The planning process is over. The government requested the designers and the architects of the House of Terror, and by the end of November the actual construction work can get started, so that the Hungarian railways will supervise this work, and also the Hungarian government. And next spring we would like to inaugurate this center, which is also going to be a documentation center. We requested the historians who are contributing as well to do their utmost to stand the trial of credibility and to create also the conditions of social support and acceptance. With this, I have just alluded to those disputes that were popping up amongst the historians, because they try to have diverse ideas as well. On top of that, 5 billion was also dedicated to this fact, so that all the communities and all the groups that are involved and that are interested could have their own remembrance activities as well. Simon L. László, who is commissioned as the person in charge of that, is supervising the tendering process and is going to finalize this tendering process, because we do not want only the government to be involved in that. We do not only want state enterprises to be active in this, but what is equally important, that NGOs, the Hungarian community and groups in the community should also consider that it is a duty and obligation of everyone to remember. That is why we think it's very important that all the local communities are involved in that. We want to make sure that in the walls of each and every Hungarian school there should be a memorial plaque warning and telling us as to who those students and teachers were who were taken away from that particular school. And the other 2 questions of yours is all about transparency and justice. The Hungarian government does its most and utmost to make sure that all the preparations for the elections and also the allocation for the money coming from the European Union should be allocated in as just a way as possible. So we will stand up against every abuse and fraud that would try to infringe the cleanness of the elections and the subsidies coming from the European Union. In the near future, we will again probably have some more list of those offshore companies who abused the potentials for tendering some EU money, and that is going to be in the magnitude of about 50 billion Hungarian forints, but it can go up to 100 billion. State Secretary, this is again a different topic. So what is the view of the Hungarian government that there was a libel shooting on Swedish television, which was very, very negatively presenting Hungary? Well, you see, this is the reason why we collect friends. You know that debate and dispute has been going on for 3 years, which is all about Hungary and about Hungarian internal policy and politics. This in Germany or Sweden, it is always blaming it on Hungarians. Many friends of ours in Many friends of Hungary around the world are very much concerned that some Hungarian people sitting in front of a camera in a Western country and blame it on Hungary. It would not be so typical that some Swedes would come to Hungary and blame Sweden from Hungary, nor would that be imaginable that some Germans come to Hungary, sit down in front of a Hungarian camera and blame Germany. It is not because there are no fierce disputes in the Swedish or German parliament, but probably that in cultured countries of the world, a compatriot of a country would not go abroad and blame and libel his or her own country. It should not be allowed because nobody should do that. That is why I have a little bit of a murky picture that you see and read about in Hungary. Our opponents or friends abroad. So that is why all the personal friendships is very important. In the person of Samuel Pisar, we have a very clever, very calm, and very good friend of Hungary who helps dissemination information about the Hungarian government and about Hungary in the western part of the world and in America. We would like to have more and more ally for us as Mr. Pisar. Peter Breyer, BPI, my question goes to you, Minister of State. So how can you accept and how can you refute the attacks of the party that's in the Hungarian parliament, which everyone in the western part of the world considers as a very, very outstanding way of remembering, but there's a Hungarian party which blames it on you. Well, the answer is I haven't found any party saying anything that would be relevant for me to stand up against. Thank you.